Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of X Vlog Live. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and today we have Hargeet Chani, who just flew in. We're waiting for Mav to join us momentarily. And well, listen, happy Indiana Jones Day because it finally released on the PlayStation. I'm very interested to see and hear what PlayStation gamers who don't have a PC and or an Xbox think about the game. I thought it was brilliant. It was one of my favorite games of last year. I believe it won our group game of the year, and for good reason. It is a phenomenal game by Bethesda. You know, last year we were talking about what happens after Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Well, we did get some inside information that Disney was very happy with the response, and I would imagine the sales of this game. And of course, well, supposedly, again, this is rumors, folks, take it with a grain of salt, that they signed a 3-game deal. Well, we'll know about that because obviously Todd Howard, well, this was Todd Howard's baby, at least one of them. But Hargeet, listen, we had a great conversation last night. We're going to continue that conversation today because, well, Phil Spencer is making the rounds once again. And it all started with an interview on the 15th of April via Variety. And the Variety interview had a lot of really good pieces of information. And we're going to get into all of them here today. This it was originated as a conversation regarding the success of the Minecraft movie, which is breaking records left, right, and center. It appears, based on some of the analysts, and again, folks, you do know, or maybe you don't, I like to swim in the waters of the trades. I don't have podcasts for it, but I do a lot of, digging behind the scenes for films because Mrs. Boom and I, we love film, and I am a film buff. I love Marvel, I love DC, I love watching films both new and old, and it's projected that this Minecraft movie, which I'm gonna be honest with you, when I saw it, I gave it to. I'm like, Jack Black as Steve. I don't know so much about that. So what the heck do I know, right? I'm an old man anyway. Well, apparently I'm not the targeted audience because I'm an old man, and they're projecting that this film could make $1 billion. Like, it's crazy. It had a very low drop off from week 1 to week 2, and that's what kind of set the interview forward for Phil Spencer. But he talked a lot about Xbox. He talked about Xbox Game Pass not being for everyone. He talked specifically about a bunch of games coming this year that have yet to be announced. Now, it wasn't just a game, it was several games where he actually literally had to stop himself and said, hey, I'm walking through my own head right now to make sure I don't spoil anything. So that leads me to believe that the June showcase is going to show big. But Hargeet, brother, welcome back, man. And you know what? While you're here, drop your link into the chat.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we got it. We folks, because again, last night we ended the night with Hargeet Chani being only 34 subscribers away from 1K. And I asked Hargeet to come back on today because that's the goal. Like I said, I don't want to go over the whole spiel of why we do it. I did that last night. I'm asking you as a friend, when you see the link, if you're not already subscribed to Hargeet's channel, let's get him to 1K live on the air. It would be a big deal for him and a bigger deal for us because we are then, of course, doing what content creators are supposed to do, and that is lift up each other. Not step on each other, lift up each other. But let's do that right now. And Hargeet, how you doing, brother? Welcome back.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm up to 989, so 11 away.
11 away. So there you go. 11 away. We have almost 200 people here. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. 11 subscribers. You can do it.
Yeah. And I just am finishing up compiling my next video.
Nice.
So that'll be up there sometime in the next half hour or so.
Well, listen, that's good. That's good. Well, listen, we're gonna get into, obviously, I think we can get 11 people. I really do. I'm pretty confident on that. and we're going to get into the topics momentarily, but I got to welcome in Mav. Mav, what's going on, my brother? We have not worked together what seems like months. Our schedules could not align. You've been busy as all H. I hope everything is good with the family and, of course, with work, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I'm running a little bit behind, but I am here and ready to have a fun show, man. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Finally, gaming news is in full force as we get
Yeah.
closer to the showcase season in June and stuff, man. But it's good to see you. Good to see Hargeet here as well. So yeah, let's have some fun.
Well, you know what? As you see the title, Phil Spencer has the last laugh on the gaming industry. So you might be saying to yourself, what are you talking about, Boom? What last laugh is he having? Well, if you just look at the industry right now, nobody wants to admit this, like the country, that we're in a recession. Nobody wants to use the R word, right? Because it's scary. And from a gaming perspective, which of course that is what we lead by on this show because that is what it's all about. Xbox seems to be the best positioned to not only take over the zeitgeist of gaming, which I think they already have. Like, no, people are going to be booing me on this that are PlayStation guys and Nintendo gals, and I get it. If you want to throw the virtual tomatoes, by all means. But we are coming. We're at I think an influx in gaming when you consider the big three. And I talked a little bit about this last night, and even in the beginning of the week. They have three big companies, and I don't want to say Nintendo is struggling. I don't mean they're struggling that they're not making money, but look, they just had their Mario Kart World Direct, and I think it was a waste of time. They barely gave you any new information outside of some open world stuff, which we could have figured out ourselves. And there's still no pre-order pricing. They still are not backing down on $80 and $90 games. We don't know if this console is going to come in at $449 and $500 with Mario Kart World, or the tariffs, which originally rumored to be over 126% higher. I mean, think about that. No, I put it to this way: only because Tyler is my life would I spend $700 on a console for him. But for myself, I refuse to do it. And I know if you have kids, ladies and gentlemen, you understand exactly what I'm talking about, right? So for whatever he wants, he's an A student. He's amazing. He gets what he wants. It's not even a question. But with that said, they just had a report that came out today that the Zelda Breath of the Wild and the Tears of the Kingdom saves will not be saved in the cloud. It's every time we hear something with Nintendo Switch 2, it seems like they're taking a couple of steps back. Like, I'm trying to remain positive because I really love the Nintendo brand and I love my Switch. And then, of course, you look at Sony. Sony's on a bit of a back foot, folks. I don't care what you say. Yes, there's some talk about Ghost of Yotai, thanks to Yoshida. Shuhei actually said that every time he's played it, it feels polished. And the pictures that they show, it looks really good. I'm very excited for that game. But that's not the lead story for Sony. The lead story for Sony is last week they raised prices on the console, and in some regions up the ante for PlayStation Plus. Now we got a report happened last night that Australia and Canada are getting price increases, I should say, for PlayStation Plus. I think both these companies are on a bit of a back foot, and now we kind of let's focus on Nintendo. Let's focus on Xbox, right? You have the Phil Spencer interview. Minecraft they own, right? Warner Brothers needed a big win. They got it. It's making money. That's why this interview happens. But when you consider the conversation in gaming, which is what we're here for, Mav and Hargeet, is it's Xbox everything. Listen, we're going to talk about Xbox because we're Xbox, right? We're fans, right? That's our thing. You had the leaked photos or the accidentally leaked photos of the Oblivion remastered that looks amazing, right? Yesterday on social was taken over by Doom, the Dark Ages, with its 2 controllers and its wrap. That took over the conversation of gaming. You have now the new information that thanks to both Nate the Hate and Ecstasies, that we might be getting a Fallout 3 remastered this year. And now we have this interview. Now, granted, this is going to be a bit of a hodgepodge conversation because I want to take each individual tweet and just discuss what was on it. So this is going to be a fun conversation. So, Mav, I'm going to go to you first because I have a tweet here from Hazador Gaming, and it points out a couple of key points to the interview. This is an open-ended conversation. You take it in any direction you see fit, but I want to read it verbatim. And Hazador Gaming posted
Boom, just
this.
1 second.
Yes,
I
sir.
got to 1,000. I got
Yes!
to 1,000.
Yes, congratulations. Thank you, chat. There you go.
Achievement
Achievement
unlocked.
unlocked. That is awesome,
Yes.
brother.
It's a 5-point achievement.
Yeah, no, that's got to be at least a 50-point achievement.
That's 1,000, full 1,000.
Well, listen, I just want to say this. First of all, congratulations, Hargeet Chani, for hitting 1K. Folks, like
Thanks
I
to the
said,
chat.
it's a
And
really
thanks to
big
you,
deal. It's a really,
Yep.
really big deal when this happens because it's the step in the right direction for one, getting partnered, and that's a big step because then you can turn it into a business. Some people have bigger business than others, but I want to thank the chat. I want to thank the community because this is what we do, right? This is exactly what we do. We show up when we're asked and we help when needed. That's exactly what happened today. I couldn't be more proud of this chat. So thank you, chat, for stepping up in a big way and helping Hargeet Chani get to 1K. That is dope. That is awesome. Okay, so congratulations, Hargeet. Let's get
Thank you.
into today's topics. Now, again, Mav, I have the tweet here in front of me from Hazador Gaming, and it's just one part of the big interview. And second half of the show, we're going to get into some of those other second parts because there's a few statements that were taken out of context, of course, because it's Phil Spencer saying it, where he's basically said that Game Pass isn't for everyone. And of course, all the negative Nancy's came out like, you see, even he doesn't like Game Pass. Come on, folks. Read the whole article and be for real. But I want to read what Hazador Gaming had to say, Mav, and this is what it said in verbatim. New interview with Phil Spencer on Microsoft's gaming business. And he has a couple of key points here. Committed to developing new IP. Game Pass as a healthy option for gamers. He's a big believer in Nintendo Switch 2 and the direction that company is going. And he has more unannounced games happening this year. And he goes on to say on a quote, some stuff that is unannounced, I'm walking in my head to make sure I don't leak anything. So again, Mav, this is an open-ended conversation. This is a big article. I had sent you all of the different quotes and tweets from Phil, but these particular points are pretty big. And I think one of the biggest here, and again, this is just me because I'm a greedy gamer and I don't have enough hands and time in a day to play what I have now. I still want more games. The fact that they have more unannounced games, and some of which have been called surprises, are happening this year, and the June showcase is only a couple of months away. Mav, I think we're in for something big this June.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious what the other games are. I mean, that's like, as speculation town is always on my mind, and
Yes,
I'm
and we're
always
co-mayors,
thinking,
by the way.
absolutely. And I know we can count on a Call of Duty later this year, but I don't think that's necessarily what he's talking about because that's like an expectation that happens every single year. The Oblivion remake has already been, for the most part, leaked. So when he says he's walking in his head to make sure he doesn't leak anything, he could technically be talking about that, but I don't think so because, it's already kind of out there in the ether, right? So I think it's something else. I just don't know what it could be. And when I see and heard his interview or saw the interview, I was mainly thinking about, man, what? There's more games, holy crap. How is there even more? Because this year has more first party output, I think, than the history of Xbox. If you count everything from like the Tony Hawk that was revealed this year already that we didn't know about. We got Ninja Gaiden 4, which is actually being published by Xbox as well. And that is something that we surprisingly found out about this year. We already knew 2025 was going to be stacked, but they've just added more already. and knowing that we have the Oblivion thing around the corner that, according to numerous leakers are out there, is potentially next week as
Yeah.
a shadow drop. Then the Call of Duty that hasn't been announced yet. It's just like this year is just full of games, man. So it's been in my head about what's the big thing that they're gonna surprise us with, or is it gonna be some smaller stuff still? And who knows, man? But I think it's just awesome to see that kind of first party output from any platform holder that has that much first party games. Doesn't matter if they're going other places or not. Us as Game Pass subscribers is the real winners here because we get all those games right away, day and date, you know? So, that was the other takeaway was, yeah, the, Game Pass is a healthy option, doubling down on, on anybody who ever said, "Hey, Game Pass is not sustainable, Game Pass is not profitable." Now other people are saying not enough people are signed up to Game Pass, but it still has way more subscribers than any of the other actual premium subscription services for gaming. So, it's good that they've kind of cemented that as like, hey, this is a great healthy option for the consumers, especially in this day and age where everything is so freaking expensive. To be able to know that you have a Game Pass subscription and you have a regular pipeline of games to continuously look forward to is absolutely awesome. And if we think 2025 is crazy, 2025 is a lot about a lot of great games, right? And 2026 is going to be the year of the heavy hitters,
Yes.
right? The big IP, a bunch of the games that we've all been waiting for a long time. You have some big time IP in games coming out from massive franchises all hit in 2026 also, man. So yeah, it just seems like, it's a confident fill. I think they're really liking the approach of releasing their games on these other platforms because they've been number 1 dominating the pre-order sales charts on PlayStation,
Yep.
right? Just kinda overtaking their storefront for the most part. If you looked at somebody posted last week a shot of the top pre-ordered games on PlayStation, and it was just all Xbox stuff for the most part. It was, over 50%, I think, was some form
I
of these
had
Xbox
6 of the
games.
12. 6 of the 12, so it was at the 50% mark. It's funny you say that, Matt, because a couple of months ago, I got panned pretty bad on socials because of it. I said, "What happens?" And I think I said it on prime time because Hargeet was there. And I said, "What happens when Xbox first party games take up half of the PlayStation top 10, top 12, top 15 games that are most pre-ordered?" And it happened. It like literally happened. And you're talking about not just the regular editions that were hitting in the the ones, the twos, the threes, the fours. You are talking the $100 editions of these games. Forza, of course, Indiana Jones, which was released today. There was quite a few games in there, and I think there could. I mean, listen, this all has to do with the output that's not there right now for Sony. The output for Sony is Xbox games. I don't think people realize that.
Oh yeah, for sure. They have so much output and like I think it's working well for Xbox now because it's like extra money for those franchises, and those games that they're making. So they have, all the Game Pass subscribers that are funneling money into Xbox. You have the people that are buying games on Xbox. You have people that are buying the games on PC. Now you have the guys that are buying the games on those other platforms as well. And it's all just helping them and their business and their franchise grow where they've been kind of capped out on console sales anyway. This has just helped funding more games and help growing their business. And I see why they were doing what they're doing, and we don't all have to like it. But it makes sense for them as a business to continue to find other ways to grow as opposed to charging outrageous prices for the games that they're selling, right? And we see the limitation from like Nintendo of what happens when okay, we're going to have a smaller install base on the Switch 2 at launch because we're not going to be able to move people over. We still need to increase our profits. We still need to increase the amount of money that we're making. So what are we going to do? We're going to charge $80 for Mario Kart World, right? Because we can, right? Whereas now with this situation, well, there's other avenues that Microsoft is making that money. They're releasing these games later in other places and making the money on the back end that way. And as for us as Game Pass subscribers, it's like, hey, nothing really changes. We just still have more games to look forward to than ever before. So I've actually becoming. I was never really bothered by any of that stuff that they were doing, but I mean, becoming more of like, well, if these companies are always looking for ways to have to grow, I'd rather them increase access to games for people and sell more games than raise the prices of the games, right? And I like that he still says Game Pass is a healthy option, because that's for the hardcore, the enthusiasts that play a lot of games. That's going to be our best avenue for value to play those games, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we have so many coming out. Like just the first party alone, it's tons of savings per year. That's just with the first party. It doesn't even count any of the third party day and date games or anything like that, right? So, yeah, I love the comments. It's coming from a place of confidence as well. I think when he says big believer in Nintendo, it's because they're relieved they finally have a platform that they can actually put stuff on. It's not going to be the, most advanced thing out there, but at least it's to the point now to where all these Xbox One generation style games that are still cross gen and maybe even some that are next gen only can actually go onto the Nintendo platforms and treat them as a better partner, right? So yeah, tons of great stuff there. The developing the new IP thing as well. Love to see that. That's why we get games like South of Midnight, right? That's how we get these
Yes.
kind of games from being creative and allowing these studios to make all this different kind of variety of games. I remember back in the day when Game Pass started, people were gonna be like, "It's gonna kill innovation. Everything's just gonna be games of service," right? Yeah, but
And here
no,
we
it's
are.
not. We got Avowed this year. We got South of Midnight. We got Hellblade 2. Was it last year or the
Hmm.
year before? I can't remember.
Last year. Yeah.
Starfield is a single player only game as well. Like it just tons of games that are made specifically just for the experience within itself, and a lot of unique original things that would have never been made otherwise, man. So yeah, I just think it's overall these like, okay, yeah, I like where this is going. I like what we're doing, and they're gonna keep going in that direction, man. So I love it.
There's a lot to look forward to. There's a
Yeah.
lot to be excited about. You mentioned single player games, right? Right. And what's interesting? If you just take a step back, obviously our brother Steel Rain uses this terminology on a regular basis. When you take that third, that RTS perspective, just let's just take off the stripes or whatever your color your team is, and let's just look at this from being a human being with eyes, right? Just look at the playing field. The playing field is loaded for Xbox, not so much for Nintendo. Nintendo's going to have their thing. They're going to do their thing. I think they're going to ultimately break the industry with $80, $90 games. We'll see how that works out. I don't think they're going to sell as many games. I'm not buying as many games as I used to because that's ridiculous. And we'll see if they sell as many consoles at this price. Sony has problems that nobody wants to admit is going on. Xbox, like I said, is the best positioned of all three. Why? Well, because they already have games as a service that are making them money hand over fist each and every month. They have a service that has 30, potentially 40 million subscribers, right? It's growing not only just on console, but growing exponentially on PC, right? But with all of that said, they're still making single player experiences. Fable's still coming. Perfect Dark is still coming. You had South of Midnight. You had Avowed. There's going to be a sequel. You have remakes to Fallout 3. You have remakes to Oblivion. I mean, Gears of War E-Day. Yes, it's going to have a multiplayer aspect, but it's going to be single player.
Somebody in the chat mentioned Indiana Jones too, which I completely forgot about. Yeah, Indiana Jones was
Indiana Jones, another
massive.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, Xbox is hitting on all cylinders. Now, there is a particular narrative, and I'm gonna bring this up on the back end of the show because this is look, I gotta be honest with you. I don't normally get annoyed because people are entitled to their opinions, but this obsession And again, I don't name names because I don't want to embarrass anybody in the chat. We don't want anybody to go away. So I'm going to do a general consensus conversation. But this obsession, ladies and gentlemen, with Xbox is not going to make hardware and stop bragging. And, they're just going to stop when the CEO said they've already confirmed hardware that's in full backing and development, both the handheld and next gen. What else do you folks need? I don't understand. You need a written document from Satya? Is that what's going to curb this ridiculous conversation? Folks, they're making hardware. That's a fact. But they're also allowing you to play your games everywhere. I think that is the bonus. If you can play on your TV, on your tablet, on your computer, that is a bonus. This whole thing about Xbox not making hardware, shut up. It doesn't make any sense what you're talking about. Let's put on the big boy pants and let's make some sense. But with that said, Hargi Chani, let's get back to this. Because I do want to back end this conversation with the no hardware thing. I think it's the most ridiculous a hill that people are standing on that it's just going to come crumbling down. It literally does not make any sense. It's their coping mechanism to Xbox actually winning for a change rather than losing. It's ridiculous. But I want to bring up those 3 particular points from Hazardor Gaming. And again, please, if you're not following Hazardor Gaming, I here to tell you folks, you're doing it all wrong because he does have a lot of really, really good information. So let me just pull up those things. I was looking at a DM. I'm sorry. Here it is. Let me just find it. All right. So you know what? Hargeet, obviously, this conversation with Hazardor Gaming, who posted, some points of view from the interview, I'm very interested to get your thoughts on it because I think there are 2 major points here, right? Game Pass as a healthy option. I think that is an option, and I think in the climate that we're in, that people do not want to admit that there is using the R word, a recession, and nobody wants to admit that when you consider prices being raised by both Nintendo with their console and their games, services are being raised. I would imagine that Sony is going to do the $80 thing. I do not think that they're going to be immune from it. They've already raised the price of the console in a couple of countries. They've already raised the prices of their streaming service. Xbox is a healthy option. There's no doubt. And speaking to several GameStop managers that I know, which of course will remain nameless for reasons, right? They're getting a lot of PlayStation 5 trade-ins to buy both the Series S and X consoles. And specifically, and again, no names here, when asked why, it was the price. It was Game Pass. It was people finding out that they have a service that's like Netflix, like Disney Plus, like Hulu, like Amazon Prime, and they're getting all of these games. And a lot of these people trading in the consoles traded in physical games. These are the normies. These are the casual gamers who only buy 2 and 3 games a year, but will be ultimately have no problem spending $20 a month to get all of these games, all their Maddens, all of their Call of Duties, all of their FIFAs, all of their 2Ks. It's in Game Pass. And the other thing, and I think this is a big one, well, actually, there are 2 of them, 2 more big ones, committed to developing new IP. That is huge, and more unannounced games. Hargeet, we literally just had this conversation last night with, God, it's too many games. Please stop it.
Yeah. And what did Hazardor Gaming specifically say? Do we have that quote? I don't know what he actually said. But look, I went through most of what was in the article for Variety with Phil. Yeah, the differences are very interesting now. It's going to get more and more stark. Right, Game Pass is that umbrella that allows them to make games that the other platforms are walking away from, or other publishers. The only other one that's doing this is Nintendo, where they still have a broad, breadth of different types of games.
Yep. And
you kind of saw that in their showcase, right, with the Switch 2. They didn't even announce their big guns, right? There was no mainline Zelda or Mario game. They just really have a broad breadth of different types of things that they keep, trying, right? So good for them. But that has certainly kind of dwindled at PlayStation. They have kind of focused, and that was kind of the Jim Ryan era, right? Was focus on the bigger games, bigger budget games. And I don't know if that has really panned out, right? So a lot of those games tend to not do as well. Some of them do really well, right? And good for them. But some of them really don't. And then they're starting to run into these budget issues, right? So we'll see how that continues with PlayStation. I think it's better to have a lot of smaller games. It gives you more potential for people to just pick up something small and play. But, you know, it's a different world now. Economically, things have changed a lot in the gaming arena. It used to take a lot less effort to make a game. Now it takes a lot to make anything. You know, you have South of Midnight here. That took a while to come, you know, to fruition, right? And I don't know how well it's going to do financially. But again, it's shielded by Game Pass. It's, you know, the cost of making the game has already been kind of paid. So it's really just gravy on top of that. I don't know how their metrics are going to work, but, you know, we'll see what they do. But yeah, this is kind of the thing. And, you know, the showcases for Xbox are just going to always be full of amazing things because they just have so many studios. They have some of those big black hole games that cover a lot of other costs, right? So, you know, this is just kind of the par for the course for us. The other thing that's interesting is this switchover. And again, it's anecdotal. I don't want to take this as like it's a universal thing, but it's anecdotal that we're hearing about people trading in PlayStations for, you know, Xboxes. And it's mostly because of this, you know, the number of games and Game Pass. And the big one here is it's Call of Duty, right? That game that people pretty much buy consistently every year is now part of that service. And hey, along with that, you get everything else that they have along with EA, right? You get the EA games. Yes, a little bit late, but you get the EA games. And if you don't have FOMO, that's a pretty good, compelling, you know, option to choose. And if you're savvy enough to figure out that you can go get, you know, code online instead of paying directly $20 a month, and you get away with like almost like $10 a month or lower, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, you have to pay for online anyway. And when you start putting in the online cost plus Call of Duty, you pretty much have paid for Game Pass Ultimate for a year. And with that, you just get everything else, right? It's just, and it gets PC access. It gives you cloud access, right? You just get all this potential options there. Xbox is basically becoming the value system. But now here's the thing. I want to be cautious that Xbox isn't also going to increase their prices.
Oh no,
they don't know what's going to happen.
They very much could.
Right.
I'm not saying that they are, you know, completely removed from the conversation, but if that does happen, let's say, for instance, the $80 game thing takes over the industry, and I'm going to tell you this right now: there is something that could.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, there could be something, in my opinion, that would be disastrous, and it was the terminology.
Yeah, Boom, you cut out for the last like 20-30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what you were saying.
Okay.
I heard him. That's maybe is your connection.
It was maybe me on my side, but you were Matt were fine. I just couldn't hear Boom.
Okay. All right. Well, what I was saying is that, you know, you made mention of the potential of Xbox raising their prices, and what I meant to say, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself if you already heard me, folks, they're not immune from this. They very well could raise their prices. Here's the problem. This could be, and I've said this before, and I'm going to stand on this stone and die. Okay, could be disastrous for the entire industry, especially when you use the terminology, the variable pricing. That is incredibly dangerous, because what that says is that you think about $80 games, like, oh, okay, I can do an $80 game every now and again. What happens if GTA is legitimately $100, which we heard last year was happening? This Nintendo thing opens the door. So yes, Xbox could raise their prices, but let's look at this realistically. Hypothetically, if they raise their prices, obviously Game Pass could go up, just like your Disney Plus, just like your Netflix. And what it ultimately is it going to go up? $1, $2, $5? I don't know. And when it does happen, we will give them smoke, as we're supposed to, because we're customers, we're consumers first. But at least there is an option that you don't have to buy the $80 game from PlayStation and from Nintendo. You can, what Phil said, have the healthy Game Pass option.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't know if we're talking about the specific thing where he said, like Game Pass isn't for everyone.
Yeah, but you can make mention of it. It's
so
break it down exactly what he said.
Yeah, that basically, look, in the industry there are different types of gamers, right? Different engagement styles that people have.
Yep.
And Game Pass is not for everybody. And I know like some players that basically the only game they play is Call of Duty, right? So they buy that every year and they just play Call of Duty. And it's like, well, okay, for you, maybe even if you had access, even if it costs the same or it's less, even if it's cheaper to just buy Game Pass, the problem is they would never use the service because it would never go to anything else, right? So they don't see the value because it's like, oh, I'm never going to play any of that stuff, right? So, convincing them to say, hey, go ahead and try it. Maybe you'll download something. Maybe that's a way to work with that. But a lot of people really only have so much time. And, they're like, this is what I do because I enjoy it, right? It's my pastime. This is what I do. I just get on with my buddies and we play Call of Duty. Fair enough, right? And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. And it's a similar thing with any of these like black hole games, right? I play Fortnite. Okay, fine. That's it. That's your game. Cool, right? And you don't need anything else. Fair enough, right? So for those folks, it does not necessarily make sense that you would go get a service, right? If you're a CS:GO player on PC, okay, like you don't need it. You don't need anything else, right? You're playing one of those, Riot games, like, and you say like, I don't need all the characters that come with Game Pass. Okay, you don't need it, right? You play what you need to play, right? And people get like your World of Warcraft. Okay, that's it. You go play your World. Okay, fair enough, right? So this is the way he's looking at it and saying, look, there are plenty of gamers out there that just play a handful of games, and those games they already have or their annual. Am I still coming through? Okay, here we go. My video kind of froze.
Yeah, you're back.
Yep. Okay. So that's really it. So he basically said there are customers where Game Pass absolutely works, and there are customers that it just doesn't make sense, and they want to buy their couple of games a year. Feel free to buy those couple of games a year. We're not forcing you to pick one way or the other. So in other words, our marketing isn't you must buy Game Pass, and we are only focused on Game Pass as the mechanism of Xbox. No, it's whatever works for you, right? And in a world where they're putting their games on other platforms, you want to entice them to buy those games on those platforms, right? The whole point is to get more revenue, right? And Game Pass doesn't exist on PlayStation or Nintendo or Steam, right? So if that's where you want to buy your game, absolutely buy your game, no problem, right? So he's going to focus on, hey, everybody, and this is on console as well. Many of us have bought the collector's edition of many games, which means we bought the game even though it's in Game Pass, right? Yep. Fair enough. That's okay, right? It's up to us as a consumer what we want to do, right? How we want to engage. So that's really all he's saying. So Game Pass is fine. It's good where it's at. They're getting growth where they expect to get it, but they're not focusing like saying, hey, that is the mechanism for Xbox. Somehow that message was somehow contorted, and it would seem like Xbox equals Game Pass. And I was like, no. Xbox is a full-on publisher of many, many games that are across all domains, right? Mobile to PlayStation to Nintendo to PC and to their console, right? They're everywhere, right? So they want to make sure that people understand that you can buy your game wherever you want to, play your game wherever you want to. They're not locking that away, right? So that was kind of the point of that. And that's accurate. I mean, we've all been saying the same thing. Like if it's not for you, if you're not going to engage with all the games and content in there, then Game Pass isn't necessarily your thing, right? Because I know, like colleagues, friends that's it. They just play Call of Duty. It's like, okay, cool. Like it's not for you, right? And I'm not going to force this that you must buy. It's like, no. It makes sense. I get it. All you do is play this one game. Fair enough. Enjoy the game, right? I love the fact that you're a gamer. This is great. Enjoy your pastime, right? And if that's all you want to engage with, no problem, right? And for Microsoft, that's awesome because Call of Duty is one of theirs, and they will keep getting the money, right? That is one of the beauties of having one of these black hole games. They have many of them, several of them, so that's awesome for them. And then they will also look at other ways to monetize it, right? So you're seeing the transmedia thing where it's going to TV or movies and all that stuff. That's going to continue, not for everything, but it's going to continue. But yeah, so I think that was kind of one of his points. I don't know if that was taken the wrong way or the right way by people in the rest of the world or whatever. But I think what he said was pretty accurate. There are customers, they're just not going to need this, right? They won't be engaging with all these games. They only have so much time, and all they want to do is play like the 1 or 2 games they like. That's it. And that's fair. It's fine. You don't have to. Right?
I gotta call out the coverage of that
Yeah.
quote though, like as well, because after this interview, I think for the most part, all I saw was instead of everybody talking about, oh my god, there's more games coming, more all this other stuff. It's
exactly.
Like Phil Spencer says you don't need Game Pass. Like it's like, okay, here we go. Ridiculous. And these are the same morons that all were screaming, I hate being forced into Game Pass. Nobody was forcing your ass into Game Pass in the first place. It was always an option. If you want to subscribe to your games and actually have a service where you get your games day and date and you find the value and all of these things that they're giving, Game Pass is for you. If you, like Hargy said, if you just play Call of Duty, I remember last year when Call of Duty was like, hey, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 confirms coming to Game Pass day one. All these guys out there are like, I don't need Game Pass. Why would I subscribe to Game Pass? Why would I spend $20 a month for a $70 game? You're not going to, you freaking idiot. You're just going to buy the game because it's an option. Nobody is forcing you to do anything. It's always been an option. It is up to the consumer on what value they see and what they're purchasing. The reason people felt like they were being forced into Game Pass to begin with is because they were too enticed by it because it was too good of a damn deal. And you can't complain about, oh my God, I feel obliged to subscribe to something because this is too good to be true. I hate this feeling of being forced. No, it's an option. You've always been able to buy your games. You've always been able to buy your games. It is no different today than it was when the service launched way back in like 2016, 2017, whenever that was. You get day and date games, or you can buy your games. It's always been that way. I think what is different now is Game Pass kind of understands everything more about what they expect for the consumer and the growth for Game Pass to be, and also the kinds of gamers that are going to be still purchasing their games, and they're completely happy either way. This is the thing that people don't understand. People think that Xbox either wants every single person to be a Game Pass subscriber, or the same people say Xbox expects every single person to buy their games. No, they are getting your money either way, and they are completely happy and content to get your money either way, depending on the kind of gamer you are. It is working for them. Everybody get it through your head. If Phil Spencer says you don't need Game Pass, he is speaking to you who probably doesn't need it. If you're subscribed to it and use it all the damn time, guess what? You probably need it. He's not talking to those people. It's just common sense stuff that these guys run with these stupid headlines and articles all the time for clicks, and they will twist this words this way, and the next time that another game is promoted as going to Game Pass day and date, they'll say, oh, I don't need a Game Pass. I hate this. Yeah. Okay. I hear you guys.
So I'll just play devil's advocate to try to think of why they would be like this. I think there's a lot of like hesitation based on where the movies and TV arena went, right? Where a lot of that has gone to streaming, and some people don't
but
like
the difference is like, okay, Stranger Things comes out to Netflix, right? Yep. You don't buy Stranger Things right away. It's not an option. It never has been. So there's always been the defining difference between the gaming subscription versus Netflix.
Yeah, and we know that. Right. But the average consumer may not understand that and say, oh, you mean I have to do this? And that's a messaging issue for Xbox to handle.
Yeah,
right?
sure. Absolutely.
But I'm just trying to play
they're at fault
on
certain aspects. Sure.
Right. Because I fully agree with you, Matt. Of course, obviously it makes sense.
So,
right?
But the guys writing these dumb ass headlines don't know that. The guys talking about this stuff on podcasts all the time don't know that. Yeah. They know it. But the headlines and stupid stuff like that
You are
that
fake
spreads
news.
the information, that spreads the misinformation, not Xbox themselves. No wonder consumers are confused when the journalists
Yeah,
out there
exactly,
don't know
right.
how to do their damn jobs.
And yeah, and that is part of the headache they run into, right? And like things get mischaracterized and misrepresented. That's it. It's sad, but it is what it is, right? So, but I agree with you 100%. Obviously, that's the case. But I can also see it from somebody who doesn't understand or takes in whatever the media is saying and says, "Oh, wait, I'm like forced to do this. I don't want." Like, okay, fair enough. I get that. So
I don't
just
need
trying
it
to like
now.
look at it
what
from
does
two
it
perspectives.
suck?
It's
Microsoft says
again,
Game Pass sucks. I don't need it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Come on.
exactly.
I'm gonna say this, and then I want to move to this unrelated bonus topic we're gonna get into, and that's the hardware. I pulled the Rolling Stone article where if this is not good enough for you folks, then you're gonna be ice skating uphill for the rest of your rest of eternity. I don't know what to tell you, but consumers today are much smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. And I'm not talking about the diehards. We're not talking about the 510 people that are watching live here. We are not the audience outside of us being hardcore, right? The audience that they're trying to speak to, they have us already. We're probably all subscribed. And there's going to be some people in here that are, trolling a little bit about, like Xbox Game Pass. Why do I need it? I have a PlayStation, whatever. If you want to buy the games, that is awesome. Go give the money to Microsoft. All that does is benefit us as Xbox gamers because that means that they're making money. They're putting their games everywhere. And again, I've been pushing back against that forever. But it's what they're doing, folks. I don't have control of the business, but I know that my Game Pass subscription continues to get ridiculous amount of games, and that's probably because they're putting the games everywhere. That's probably a part of the big machine that moves in business. But the thing is this: we don't give the normies enough credit. And the normies have multiple subscriptions. They understand that they're not buying DVDs anymore. They're not buying Blu-rays. Now, maybe some do, sure, but they know that they have Hulu and they have Netflix and they have Amazon Prime and all of these different streaming services. And that's where Xbox comes into play. Now, granted, I have given smoke to Microsoft for many years that their advertising is just it's head scratching at times. They've gotten better, sure. They absolutely have, but it's not where it needs to be, at least in my opinion. But look, at the end of the day, I think that there was a lot to take away from this interview. I think it was a lot of positive things to take away from this interview. And if, of course, we've already seen, because Mav made a awesome rant, as again, he's infamous because of his rants. That was a great one, Mav. So thank you so much for doing that. We definitely appreciate it. I want to just touch on the hardware thing because this is one of those conversations, gentlemen, that refuses to go away. Like Game Pass is killing the industry. Like the more Game Pass does for gamers and consumers, somehow or another, it's killing the industry. But yet Nintendo gets no smoke for $80 and $90 games. PlayStation gets no smoke, no coverage for raising the pricing of PlayStation Plus Premium and its regular service, as well as its consoles. Yet Xbox has the most valuable service in gaming, hands down. There's no questions. There's not even a competition to have, right? And then, of course, we have the consistent moaning and groaning. And again, no names here, folks, about hardware not being a thing for Xbox. You just wait till Satya Nadella tells Phil Spencer he's not making hardware. Like, are you serious? Like, I know if you're in this chat, you read articles and you tune into other podcasts and you hear other podcasters talk about this. I literally have the freaking Rolling Stone article in front of me where Phil Spencer literally freaking said that the company will continue to develop and release new hardware, including consoles, now and in the future. Holy shit. Like, what more, Mav, do these freaking people actually need? Do you need a handwritten document from Satya Nadella? Well, sorry, I can't provide that. This is one of those things. And again, I don't really get annoyed. I just find it very disingenuous when people from this community, this has nothing to do with the media. The media is always going to be shitty. They're always going to be who we thought that they were. But there are people that show up to other people's chats that are here today that consistently try to run this narrative. And it's to the point of stop banging your freaking head against the wall because you're going to knock yourself out. I don't understand what more you need. Mav, please, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think these people could literally walk into a store the day of a next gen launch for an Xbox console, see a line of people waiting to purchase them, and then go and be like, Xbox is getting out of the hardware business. It's like, I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what they need to see. It's like the industry's changing, Xbox is changing. We got, you know, them reconfirming time and time again about their commitment to still making hardware and it being an important part of their business. So, it's going to be here to stay. And why? Because it makes dollars sense for them. It makes them money. They have a lot of enthusiasts that play on console that are subscribed to Game Pass or buy games on the Xbox store that play on console. And they're going to want to still have an option for those gamers, the 30, 40, however many end up buying per generation. It could end up being 50. I don't know what it ends up being at the end of the day, right? But they're still going to want to sell to all those gamers and not force them to have to go buy something else to continue console gaming if they want to play next generation games, right? So, yeah, it's going to be a part of their business. And will they sell maybe less of them over time? The whole industry is going that way with hardware, with console hardware. So, yeah, eventually, they'll probably continue to sell less hardware, especially when they say that it's not needed to play Xbox games. But there's going to be a lot of us that are going to choose that as the main option to play their games. And they know that. They know they have a compelling service to provide to consumers. They know that they have a lot of great games coming. They know that there's a lot of third-party support for games releasing on their store and their ecosystem, and they're going to have options for people to buy those games on their devices. And the thing that's changing the most is we're actually going to have more options than ever before. And not just within the actual hardware itself, but also with the storefronts and the access to the games that we have. So you're going to have different profiles of devices where you have handhelds, you have consoles. You're going to have potentially third-party consoles come out that actually are running Xbox storefronts on them, an Xbox operating system type interface on them. You're going to have handheld devices as soon as this year running Xbox OS type software on it as well. When you launch it up with the Asus ROG device that's coming out, and that's going to just continue to develop over the years and the years. And as an Xbox consumer, hey, it's not bad for me to have options. Like, yeah, I can choose which option makes the most sense for me and what gives me the best bang for my buck, and also what has the best power performance for all of those. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what the hardware is, man. Like, it's like people are afraid of options. And that's one thing I've learned ever since like Xbox has started making their moves, like with Xbox to PC originally, and then then Game Pass comes out. It's like everybody's like, no, I don't like options. Just give me one thing and charge me as much as you need to for it, and that's fine. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but you realize that's actually the anti-consumer move, right? Because that is gatekeeping you into something that is extremely locked and where they can have complete control over pricing and all of that as well. So the more open things are, the more options we have and the more access we have to things that actually benefits us as consumers. And that's the kinds of things that really we should be applauding, and that we should be asking all the platform holders and publishers to do, not create these ultra hyper focused things that keep everything else out for the sole purpose of selling that device, to sell you more things that they will continue to raise the prices of on that specific device. I like options, man. I like where Xbox is going with the hardware, because it's something I always thought was going to happen eventually, right? We all talked about, hey, whatever happens if there's this like one console future? You know what I mean? Well, like we're seeing potentially almost like the birth of that with Xbox, where if they do allow all the other storefronts going on, right? Now potentially you're gonna be able to access emulation on there as well through other means behind once you get into Windows mode behind the Xbox OS. Get Xbox games, get your Steam stuff. You know, so PlayStation launches a storefront on PC. Guess what? You'll be able to get the access to that too, right? There's a lot you're gonna be able to do with that thing, and if it's a compelling piece of hardware, it's a console that maybe you know what you can just do everything on.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
again, I always say it's the magic box that we've all as kids dreamed of it, where you don't have to buy anything except for this, but you can play everything.
yeah, and
Again,
it'll be user friendly for the console enthusiasts and fans, and
yes.
then and for people that are saying, well, why would I do that instead of just buying a PC? Well, if you're gaming on PC, and if you want to sit in front of a desk and game on a PC, that's probably what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're sitting in front of a TV and you buy a console, that's probably just going to be for you. That's who it's for, is the person that's a console owner and a console enthusiast, right? That like the ease of use and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be the hybrid type thing that they're really kind of working on. And like for me, the hardware is the most exciting and interesting thing about what the Xbox is doing now, because as a platform holder with the decisions that they made and with what they're doing, we're going to see something that we've never seen before. And that is way more interesting than the repetitive stuff that we keep getting from the other platforms.
Listen, great points all around. Hargeet, I have a couple of quotes from the article that I want to read, and I'm going to hand that ball off to you, and you're going to, this is a touchdown automatically. But I do want to catch up on Super Chats. Now, do you, K Now, the Broke Boy Insider, says this. This is aimed at you, Hargeet. I sub to Hargeet with 4 of my other Gmail accounts
Thanks,
as well. Listen, however you get across the 1K, it's a win. So thank you for helping Hargeet. We super appreciate it. Our good friend Splendiferous drops a very generous $2 super chat, and he goes on to say, "If you make it, the ponies will come and they will love you." I mean, they're loving all of the games that are coming out on Xbox from Xbox, and their pre-orders prove that. Freddie Fox in the chat says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. Phil says there are unannounced games coming, but media focus on making what Phil said about Game Pass isn't for everyone a negative thing, shaking my damn head. I mean, again, it's just, we got to, folks, we're very privileged here today because we got a Mav rant live on the air. I love that. It's one of my favorite things that he does, and we got it here. So I feel honored. Eris_EMS has gifted 5 double barrel gaming memberships. Brother, that is crazy generous of you. He's done this more times than I can actually remember how to count. Eris, thank you so much for the generosity. We appreciate you being here. Do you, K Now, the Broke Boy Insider, drops not 1 but 2 $5 super chats. And the first one, he says, there's an article on Windows Central talking about the Rebellion Studio CEO, makers of Atomfall, praising Game Pass, helping the game's success. Yeah, I actually read that this morning. It's a fantastic article. It was well written, and we will be using that as a piece of context for tomorrow morning's Breakfast at Boom. I have an original topic we're going to get into, but thank you, Will. And once again, Will, thank you for the additional $5 super chat. He goes on to say this. I'm seeing some PlayStation fanboys using the new hashtag save up for a PS6 if you... I didn't see that. But okay, I'm gonna look for it now. He says if you have to start saving now for a console coming in maybe 3 years, just stop. Yeah, I mean, but there'll be no smoke when it's a $100 PS6. We will definitely see. These consoles are going to be expensive, make no mistake, but we'll see what Sony does. So I have a couple of quotes here, Hargeet, and I want to hand it off to you. Okay. Now, again, folks, this was the direct and verbatim printing from the Rolling Stone article. And it says, Phil Spencer also stated that he wants the new Xbox hardware to be innovative and differentiate itself from competitors, potentially leading to a unique hardware experience. He also expressed that as a preference for hardware, he wants it to be unique with benefits to all players rather than an incremental upgrade, meaning just a PlayStation 4 is they have a more expensive and a more powerful PS5. The PS6, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a very amazing piece of hardware, but it's just going to be a supercharged PS5. That's the same thing with the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is going to be more powerful, yes, but it's just a more powerful Switch 1. The next Xbox, which people said is not coming, that they're not making hardware, right? Because there's a lot of CEOs in this chat and on social media, right? We have literally the freaking written words from the article read verbatim, and for some, Hargeet, it's not enough. What is happening?
Well, look, to be fair to those people, I'll just say that Microsoft has had a history of killing their consumer businesses. So they do this, like the Windows Phone, the Zune, and all that stuff. That's fair, right? So fine, I get that. But this is a running business that's making money. You could say the console sales are dwindling, but we have anecdotal evidence that that's probably not the case. I don't know if you're noticing this, but the consoles are also chronically like out of stock. And in like the rest of the world, it's terrible. In the US, it comes back, but it is chronically out of stock. The 2 terabyte, I've been looking for the 2 terabyte. It's hard to find. So it is an interesting time where, there is enough demand that like there's a shortage of consoles. And, if you look at like the GameStop trade-in value, the Series X has a higher trade-in value than a PlayStation 5. So what does that tell you? There's more demand for that console, even a refurbished or whatever, like a used console instead of a new one. They are in demand, and at least in the US, I don't know what's happening in the rest of the world. I hear anecdotally that it's very hard to get a Series S or X console around the world because of just shortages. There's just no hardware available. Now, maybe the demand has changed, and that may be the case based on they now have Call of Duty and it's in Game Pass. So that effect has changed things. And B, the value is starting to exemplify itself, right? Perhaps going to Gamescom in a big way was a catalyst that said, hey, wait a minute. What is this whole thing, right? I've been ignoring the entire Xbox ecosystem, but now they show all this stuff. What's going on over here? And that's a massive number of gamers, right? That's not just industry. That's gamers going to Gamescom. And they're seeing this stuff now, right? And perhaps that like starts to spread and people start seeing the value of it. But if you don't have consoles available, that's kind of disappointing, right? But so I don't know that this is not something that could turn around, right? If people are starting to see the value, there's really not that much coming out on PlayStation. I'm just saying. They have Wolverine. They have, what was it? Saros or something like that, whatever.
Saros, yes. It's a sequel to the other game. It appears to be a sequel to the other shooter that they had by House.
Ghost of Yotai. And then I don't know if Intergalactic makes it this, generation.
No, they said that's been pushed to 2027.
So it might be a next gen game, might be this gen game, right? But so that's what we have, right? And if they're talking about games for 2027, that means they really just don't have that much to show us, right? And it's like, okay, on the flip side, you could even take the Nintendo Switch 2 thing, right? There was still like 5-6 first party games, and we know there's more to come. Xbox just keeps piling it on. There's so much coming out. So, like, at some point, you just got to say, all right, what am I getting on this platform versus that? I can play the third-party games. I can play Call of Duty there, but I have to pay for it versus I can just pay for my subscription and get all these other games. And I think that's starting to resonate. So with gamers that do want variety, they're starting to see it, right? So maybe that changes things. As far as the hardware, from an Xbox perspective, they have 2 platforms. I know people don't want to accept that, but they have the console and they have PC. They're going to keep making hardware, and they're going to partner with their OEMs to continue to make hardware, whether that's in a new format like an Asus ROG Ally, whether that's a laptop, a gaming rig, whatever. They're going to continue to keep partnering with those folks to keep giving you different ways to access their games and other games, right? So I don't see that changing. As far as a console, as long as there's a demand, they will keep making it, right?
Yes.
So, but what I do expect going forward, I don't see that they'll take the hit anymore because their competitors.
No, we're
are
gonna
not
have
doing
to
that.
pay. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to pay what it costs, right? Like up front, I think I want to say it was a Series S was like a $200 hit that they were taking every time that you were buying one, and then it was $100 or so on the X, or it could be inverted that it was 200 on the X and 100 on the S. But I think it's that way. And the Series S really is like $500, and they sold it for $300, right? But that is kind of the world we're in, right? So I don't know. How much these things are going to cost. If you think like the PS5 is going to be, a PS6 is going to be $800, I wouldn't be surprised if the Series X is the same. We did get that very sort of like offhand comment that, hey, $1,000 console would be too much from Phil, right? So
did say that.
can guess that they've been talking about it. Like, what is that? What is that number? Where is that going to be? Right? Is it going to be 9? Is it going to be 8? Right? Obviously, they're thinking 1,000's too much, right? But so look, they are absolutely looking at putting something out. And again, as long as you have console enthusiasts who want to buy the console, and they have a lot of Game Pass subscribers that are on the console, that will just continue. They're going to keep making generations to make sure you're good. If they can open it up and say, hey, an Xbox is available from other partners as well, and that is not a PC device, it is an Xbox device that just happens to be a PC as well, right? If they get to that level, but it just boots up Xbox, right? Very stripped down hardware wise to just be what's needed for gaming, and it gives you full Xbox compatibility, right? All your backcat and all that stuff from your current Xbox is there, right? That would be very cool. And now you're expanding the number of providers out there, the number of different price points and performance points and things like that, right? So it just makes it more open and a larger ecosystem. And I think that was, Matt, what you were kind of getting at, was like, they could be the single source for a gaming console simply because it would just integrate the Windows part of it to say multiple stores, all your Xbox console backcat is there, all your Xbox games are there, Game Pass is there. But if you want to buy your game on Steam, no problem. If the game doesn't come to Xbox console specifically, but it's on Steam and you want to go for it, right? You have access, right? You basically have access to everything. And at that point, you kind of have access to all of the PlayStation games as well, just maybe a little bit delayed on some of them. And then you could emulate another platform. We'll just leave that at that. Because that, by the way, is available today. If you really wanted to go do it, you can do it on your current Xbox consoles in dev mode, right? So you can enable dev mode and bring the apps over. There are UWP apps that can emulate. So you can just bring those over to your console and, play emulated, right? So either way, it's an interesting time as far as like the future path here, because if you look at where the other two are going, they're increasing prices. Xbox is so far not. They're increasing, and this is what Phil was saying, right? They're increasing their number of consumers, right? They're trying to expand the number of players that
outside of
access
console,
them,
PC,
right? And say, hey, this way I can spread the cost and not have to nickel and dime, right? And that's, you see it from the other two, right? They're increasing their prices all the time. And Nintendo just put out $80 for Mario Kart World, which is mind-bogglingly weird, but whatever. So that is kind of what they're doing. They're saying we're going to maximize return from the set of customers we already have. And Xbox is like, well, there's 3 billion gamers out there. Why are we going to focus on the 60 million or whatever number it is, 40 million that they have on console, right? How do I expand that to say, why am I not targeting the 3 billion? And that way I can, spread the sort of the need to bring in revenue across that number of users, of potential customers, instead of just saying, hey, I got to get more from my console base only. Which I think is the better answer. It's a far better answer to say I get 100 million, 200 million customers paying me $2 versus my 40 million paying me $10, right? Yep. It's this way they can spread that with a very small increment, and that gives them the same like revenue. I might have been off on the math of order. You know what I mean though, right? It's like
Yeah, no,
you
exactly
just
what you mean. Yeah.
spread it, with a smaller increment up versus a larger increment to the same customer base, which is what you're seeing. You're seeing that across the board with both Nintendo and PlayStation. Nintendo was kind of staying put at where they were, and with the Switch 2, though, they have just opened it up. They're like, "Yep, we're going to charge you more across the board. Deal with it." I don't know what that's going to do for that console. We will see. But as far as the potential for Xbox to not make another Xbox, that's pretty low. Could it happen? To be fair, yeah, anything could happen, right? But I don't see them saying no to that right now. There's just too much value to be had. I think they're going to keep that, and they're just going to expand on it to make it something that's so compelling that you'll just want to buy it, and that is the right thing to do, right? So that's where I see it. I hope they continue making consoles, and I'm pretty sure they've been pretty adamant about the fact that they're doing so. So I don't see that not being the case. I understand the caution that some people have, but to say that they're not going to make one, that's bogus. Because so far that's what they're saying. They're going to make one. But there are always things that could change. Anything can change. We don't know. But I'd say like 80% good that we're getting another generation from Xbox. And I think it's the most exciting generation we're going to have if it really does bring in some Windows compatibility, because now we can really push the envelope on what that console can pull off. If you can bring in Steam and Epic and all that stuff, very cool potentials there, right? So we'll see where they go with it. But I think they're, the number of games they're putting out is going to increase excitement for an Xbox console, or PC. That's fair. That's their other platform. They're happy to have you on PC, and increase Game Pass. I think there's going to be more people who are now interested in Game Pass.
Yep.
If you're a gamer that likes to play multiple types of games, right? If you want to be able to go into multiple games, like a South of Midnight that's being played right here, right? Or Adamfall, right? Which was also day and date Game Pass, right? There's so many games coming in. Ninja Gaiden 4 will be day and date in Game Pass, being published by Microsoft, right? So, yeah, it's a good time, but we'll see what they do with it. But I don't see the hardware going away, unless there's some major market disruption that happens. I think they're good to go. So we'll see where everybody goes. But I think the more fun thing is the immediacy. What happens with hardware altogether, given the majority of it is being built in China.
I mean, again, that's definitely certainly another conversation. But I just to dumb this down as schoolyard as possible, there are 40 million reasons why they're going to make hardware, and that is Xbox Game Pass subscribers. Because what do they do with that 40 million people who are on console? Or potentially, and again, it's not full 40 million. You might have 10 million on PC. You might have 30 million on console. The numbers are going to go higher and lower depending on what day of the week. But what do you do for the other 30 million people that are subscribed on console? Say, we don't want to make a console, so we don't need those people? What freaking kind of sense is that? That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And again, it's just rhetoric from people that want to try and push a negative on Xbox, as they've always done, and it's fine. But you know what? I think we did a really good job of making sure that it was clear that new hardware was coming. And again, I'm always about the evidence-based conversation. I read you the freaking article verbatim. There should be no question. But let me just say a big thank you to LAD or Lad. Thank you so much. He has become a channel member. So thank you so much, Lad, for supporting the channel. We're going to get everyone out of here. Again, this is one of these smaller shows of the day, or more so of the week. But Mav, thank you so much for joining us, brother. We super appreciate it. We got to sell your brand, brother, because I know you are close to hitting a milestone with your channel as well. And we want to see you get there, because you're definitely one of the best in the business, especially when it comes to being welcoming and kind to the community. It's a big deal for you and the missus that you guys, consistently are welcoming, and you have that fun family nature to your shows. So let's sell the Fun Speculation Network, which of course has a bunch of podcasts that you should be listening to. And of course, you should be subscribed. Tell everyone where they can do that. And more importantly, follow you on social media.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Boom. It was a blast. But if you guys want to find me, go check out Fun Speculation on YouTube. You can also find me there on Twitter with the same name. Yeah, we got multiple shows. We have 3, not as many as Boom. Not as many as Boom. It's okay though. Boom's an animal. We got 3. Mondays we have Fun Speculation podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Then Thursday, Pong, Soul, and I, the other co-mayor of Speculation Town, go live for PM in the PM at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that'll be tonight, as long as Pong has a plumber coming to do some work. So as long as his work gets finished in time. So we'll see about that 100%
Is it Mario?
timing.
Is Mario coming over? Luigi?
Yes. No, I heard it was Toad, so I don't know how that's going to work out. Anyway, so yeah, Pong's getting some work. So we'll see if he's finished in time. But yeah, probably PM in the PM tonight and every Thursday around 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then Friday nights we have Xbox Ultimate podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes do game streams, and if I feel so inclined, I'll do a solo stream if something triggers me to let some steam out. My
Those are the best.
Cast.
I love the solo Mav rants, man. Those are freaking awesome.
Yeah, if I would do them more. It's just like, there's news has been so kind of tame lately and stuff. It's just it kind of is what it is. But eventually, maybe I'll get back to doing more of those again. But yeah, I am planning on doing a stream this weekend as well. So I'm gonna be streaming some Wreckfest too, probably on Saturday. So
nice.
Check that out as well. But yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. Boom. Always support this man. He's one of the best, and he's one of the probably the most supportive person out there in the community as far as like promoting other people's shows and trying to help everybody. Even people that are getting started with podcasting and all this stuff. He's the godfather of this stuff, man. So everybody support BoomStick.
Well, we definitely appreciate the kind words for sure, and again, that's really what it's about. I know that there's been some people in the community that that might consider pushback on helping others because what if such and such gets more subs than me? So what? The point is, as creators in a business that is very vast, YouTube is a vast, packed place for incredible content. There are people I run into like, hey, Boom, go check out this guy. And I'm like, wow, this guy is freaking awesome. Where were they all my life? And I sub them. And again, this is that's what YouTube's about. It's about seeing other people that are trying to get into the business and extending the hand. That's something that it's a really big deal for me personally, because a hand many years ago was extended to me, and I know that people don't watch this stuff as much anymore because it's been a little bit toxic. But of course, I'm talking about Mooch and Crap Gamer. Like, I showed up on their show as a guest because I reached out and said, hey, do you guys ever have community members on? I was on once. I the bucket list check. Boom. I got onto a podcast. I talk about video games. This is awesome. And he invited me back a couple more times. And then eventually I got on as a regular panel member. And I decided to do my own thing. And well, now we have a network of shows, which is Monday through Friday. And that was because the kind gesture of Mooch, who offered his hand. So that's why I promised myself, no matter how big or small I'm going to get, whether we stay at just under 16K or we get to 100K, we're going to go out of our way to help everybody, like we did with Hargeet today, because that is what it's all about. It's about helping others. Everyone should strive to do that. Not everyone does, but everyone should. Hargeet China, congratulations once again on hitting 1K for your YouTube channel live on the air. That's a really big deal for you, really big deal for us. Please continue the trend. Sell the brand. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel, which you're going to have a new video going up later today? Talk about that. And more importantly, sell your book. He wrote a book called Emergence, and you should consider buying it, especially if you are a fan of Mass Effect. Sell the brand, brother.
Yeah. And thanks for everybody for subscribing and getting me over the 1,000 subscribers point. I already published the video, so if you guys want to check it out after this, go ahead and check it out. But yeah, my channel is just Hargeet Chani 1 on YouTube. You can find that. I don't know if we can add the link again into the chat, but and then as far as my book, yep, if you want to pick that up, it's shop.chiny.us. That's the website. It'll point you over to Barnes & Noble or Amazon to pick it up, or if you want to get a signed copy or get some of the merch, which I'm actually wearing the shirt. I don't know if it shows up or not, but you can get the merch. Yeah, and then we'll be on Friday, hopefully, with C Bunny and Doodle at about 8 p.m. ish, U.S. Eastern Time on Point for Gamers, with Fonz on Saturday at 6 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and then at Fonz Gaming, and then Sunday with Web Dave, 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Check those out as well. We'll be back next week. Wednesday will be fun. It'll hopefully have the pre-orders up. It'll also hopefully have an Xbox showcase, right? So
and potentially yet, right? Oblivion. So we'll be talking Oblivion.
So yeah,
there's a lot going on.
So
next
we'll
week
have
is going to be
a lot of fun next week. So check that out next Wednesday.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Hey, listen, I just saw General Spartan 27. He says he wants to jump on the show. Brother, DM me. Let's work it out. I'll send you over the schedule. You let me know what works for you. We'll go over the gear that you need, and we'll get you on the show. And that's for anybody. If you're interested in coming on and you're in trying to get into the podcast game, so to speak, DM me. Of course, I have to vet everybody because we can't have somebody come on the show and start cursing and acting a fool, because then that looks bad on us. And I had that happen only once. I've had hundreds and hundreds of people on. I only had one person that came on. It was just a really bad experience for myself as well as the panel members. It was, again, no names because we don't want to embarrass anybody.
The names, come on, Boom.
No, we don't do the names thing here. We never want to embarrass anybody. But it was only one that happened once. So of course, DM me, brother, and we'll work it out. But of course, a big thank you to all the super chats and the channel member chats and the gifted subs. Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for it. Again, we are holding off on announcing the the contests. There are going to be at least 3. There's the big Christmas one, and there's the big birthday bashes that we always do in September and November. It's just that we're trying to we got to navigate the money, because this comes out of our pockets to do these contests, and we will continue to do. We're going to have a few little ones, and of course we're going to try and deliver as much as we did last year. And last year, folks, we delivered over $4,000 worth of prizes. That was a lot. And we love doing it. And we can only do it through the generosity. If you find folks in the chat who consistently drop super chats, who drop channel member chats, and also gift subs. And again, Mrs. Boom and I are incredibly grateful for that. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of X Vlog Live.